Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with, a returning Lucy.
Hello.
Hey. And another returner. We're joined again by Adam.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
I remembered where the podcast suite was. It's my living room.
Perfect. You have moved. You've moved slightly since we recorded last.
Yeah, I've got new furniture and stuff, so I've rearranged everything. So now you can see my beautiful art on my wall here. My Witcher signs.
Yep.
That I stenciled essentially in, but painted myself. So
Nice.
I'm very proud of them. They've been on the wall for a while now, but couldn't get them into frame without the rest of my room before.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the furniture and that was laid out. So this is much nicer.
Good. I assume over time you'll have a big Geralt coming in from one side, maybe Ciri sort of arcing over the top, a roach poking his head in awkwardly somewhere, upside down perhaps.
Yeah. So I want to get like some art or something because there's a big space underneath, which you can see there, and there hasn't been anything that quite fits with what I want for it yet.
That's fair. Absolutely.
I looked at like disc plates and stuff like that, and most of them they're vertical and not horizontal. Most of the horizontal ones are like concept arts that just don't. They're very nice, but they just don't quite fit with what I want for it. It's
Sure.
just very much just scrolling through stuff, going, no. Those are very nice, but no, not what I'm wanting. So
Yeah,
one day I'll find what I want.
I always feel like I want a slightly wider shot just to get in, just another foot on either side. Because I've got a couple of Star Wars pictures up there, which I'd like on either side of the shelves. But without it being a little bit wider, then you just see sort of, they'll be cropped. You only see sort of half of them. The problems we have as live streamer human people and these kinds of things. Let's kick into some drinks for this week. Lucy, I know you have been off the beers recently. Are you drinking tonight? Or are you having another quiet evening?
Quiet evening. Expect me to have a few quiet evenings in the future.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Absolutely. When you're, you've had a bit of a bad head, I suppose, to not get too deep into it.
It's migraines, so definitely makes. You can never tell what the cause is, but to add to fogginess is just by drinking is not ideal. So
that's fair.
Can be off it for a few weeks.
Yeah. Good.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah. So
well, as long as it helps you feel better, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Adam, is it the regular Pepsi tonight? Is it the Dr. Pepper this evening? What are you gracing us with?
You'll notice that this is a very different kind of glass.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Very special because I have a to drink. I've not been a whiskey drinker in the past, but I was recommended this one. It's a very nice Aberfeldy, 12 years from Perthshire. I was recommended that as a relatively nice kind of beginner whiskey. This is a nice one that's not too ridiculously expensive to start with. I'll read the flavour text stuff because that's what we've got. So it's mellowed for 12 years in handmade oak casks. This smooth, sweet dram offers rich rewards for those who like to dig deeper. We lose a fair bit to the angels, though. Almost a third of every cask has disappeared into the ether before we're ready to bottle.
Oh.
Is that the... That might not be the right bit I've read. Hang on. There was definitely flavour text somewhere. Hang on. See, I was very professional and looked at it ahead of time, and now I've completely lost.
I mean, it's easy.
That was some flavour text, but not really about the drink itself.
Crack it open and see if you can find it once you're all poured up. What are you drinking it with? You're just having it neat, a little bit of ice, maybe, a bit of water.
I'm just gonna have it neat. Again, I consulted with my good friend who actually works at the distillery.
Nice.
about his recommended best ways of doing it, and obviously, the main thing is, you try out some stuff and you find what works for you. But he
Yes.
recommended just to have it neat to
Mhm.
begin with. His idea was, there you go, nice in the bottle.
Mm.
It's very lovely. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice colour to it. He recommended, to avoid ice because it kind of dulls the flavours when you
Yeah.
chill it in any way. But
It's
a
like
couple of
those,
a couple of
whiskey
drops of water.
stills.
Yeah, a couple of drops of water is also what a lot of people recommend doing. But I just thought I would hedge my bets on this and just have it neat
Yeah,
instead
that's
of going, I've had this much whiskey and this much water, which is maybe what might have happened otherwise. So we'll pour and I'll let you chat about your beer.
Perfect.
And I assume you have a beer.
I do. I have got 2 beers. I went away for a few days, and when I generally go down to Exmouth to hang out down there for a couple of days, we end up at the farm shop. And in the farm shop, there's lots of sort of more local beers. One that I found was I've drunk a few sort of beers from Utopian over the last couple of days and some other places. But one I found was I think it's a Verdant beer. The Seedful Project, release number 3, but it's brewed with Utopian. It's a dry hopped, unfiltered New Zealand Pilsner at 4.8%. It does have a little bit of flavour text. A series of releases exclusively across Cornwall and Devon. Small batch brews that will allow us to create, experiment, and dabble in beers that we would like to see in pubs across the far southwest. It's got Nelson Sauvin in the hot side, and in the cold side, Nelson Sauvin and Riwaka, one of those. I haven't heard of that hop, or if I have, not of note yet. So we will see what this is like. But yeah, starting light with a little Pilsner. As it's been that kind of weather for the last few days-ish. Not today, but...
No, it's been despicable all week. It's just stout weather.
Birmingham's
Summer's
just
over.
been grey.
It has, yeah.
That was nice. It was nice down in Devon. I got a little bit burnt. It's turned to the... I look quite red on the camera, but it's turned to my usual dirty, sort of yellowy brown tan that I go. So it did something to me.
Olive. Called olive.
Olive, exactly. As I say to Kim, I'm like a golden god. Not that I think there's any kind of Greek in me or anything like that, but who knows? One day I may find out. We'll see. Adam.
Okay.
We'll come back to you for the whiskey. Have you got it poured? What's it like? What's it look like?
I have indeed. Gone for a relatively small dram as usual.
Just to start.
Yeah.
Full glass will come later.
Yeah, it smells very nice. It's 40%, so it's it is quite full. It is no small beer. Yeah, but it smells quite nice. So.
I'm not a whiskey fan.
Mm.
Sad to say.
This is where we need Adel, isn't it? Adel's a big whiskey drinker. It's his. I think it's his preferred sort of spirit of choice.
Yeah.
Well, I went through a very working class way of discovering my spirit of choice, which is you can drown out the taste of vodka with soft drinks, and if you pick the right vodka, you hardly notice it, and it's great. So if you don't go for the really cheap stuff that burns like hell, like Paint Stripper, and get, not too expensive but a nice one, you can have a very nice night just on that. That's relatively cheap, and you don't go too crazy. So the thing that stopped me kind of drinking a lot of whiskey or trying a lot of whiskey is, they're very expensive, a lot of them.
Yeah.
As you go, I don't want to spend a huge amount on something I might not like. And you want to get... I haven't really been to any distilleries or that myself to actually have like tastings or something. That's maybe one of those, like, you really should see if there is like places that do just like I don't know, like a night you pay for X amount and then they have a selection for you to try or something. That maybe because there's so many
whiskey
varieties.
festival.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a whiskey
Like, I'll
festival.
find at least one I enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's one of the reasons why I thought, well, my friend works at a distillery, so I'll ask him what he recommends as a kind of beginner place because he naturally drinks quite a lot of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe
Good
I
place to
just
start.
haven't found the right whiskey.
Yeah,
Admittedly, I haven't had much whiskey.
yeah. Well, that's it. There's a lot of different kinds. This is very nice, actually. It's quite smooth. There isn't too many. There isn't too many kind of like overbearing flavors or anything in it. A little bit of alcohol burn, as you would expect from 40%. But
Are you getting any of those kind of, which way is it sort of going? Getting any of those kind of woody notes? Has it got a little bit of sort of peatiness to it, perhaps, or is it much lighter?
I think it's quite a light one. Again, this is where my lack of beer drinking experience tells, because I don't really know what peatiness is or what it tastes like.
Imagine the smell of a farm.
Manure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you've just eaten a really, a steak that just tastes like the back end of a cow.
Bit gamey. if you're into sort of your meats, it's more on the gamey side of things. It's more venison than kind of beefy, isn't it? I think peat.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's particularly peaty. I don't think it's
Well, given
it's
that your friend said it was like more of a starter beer, and
Well,
I'd
that's
imagine the flavors aren't quite that bold. Just to...
like the stuff about the actual distillery itself talks about it being a bit more honeyed kind of flavour.
Bit sweeter, yeah. That makes sense. Lighter and
Cosmic in the chat says he missed the beginning. What kind of whiskey is it? Just remind us.
Is it like is it blended or non-blended? Or...
Sorry, it's a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's an Aberfeldy, 12 years, and again, being Scottish, you spell whiskey without an E. It's ISKY after the WH, which would have made sense to start with it. But yeah, so in Aberfeldy, the time-honoured techniques of long fermentation to conjure rare honeyed notes, and they draw water from the Pitilli burn, renowned for its quality. A burn is just like a small stream with fresh water in it.
Right.
And apparently, that particular stretch of water is known to have small amounts of gold in it.
Oh.
Alluvial gold? I saw that somewhere as well. Yeah, alluvial gold.
You're drinking liquid gold.
Yeah, well, that explains why they've gone for this colour. Because I'll show you the actual bottle again. It's a very nice. It is that kind of honey, kind of goldish colour. As I say, there isn't too many strong notes to it, like you find in a lot of your craft beers that you're used to, but it is very, very nice.
Nice.
And
good.
It has a nice nose to it as well. Again, you can definitely smell the alcohol on it, but there isn't anything about it that really goes. Yeah, there's nothing off-putting about it, shall we say?
Good.
It's very much I think I'll just keep sipping on this.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll return to it in a little bit. We'll get some more thoughts on it when I jump into my second beer. But for my first, for the Verdant and Utopian Pilsner, it's super light in colour. It's a little hazy. I can see my fingers kind of through the glass. You can probably just see my hand creeping around there through the glass. So it's got a little haze to it, but it's pretty clear. Obviously, it's just that unfiltered element giving that little bit of haze to it. The head pour quite sort of large, very foamy, but that's dissipated quite quickly. There's barely any. It says it's dry hopped, but I'm getting
no aroma.
Very, very light notes. Really, really light.
Yeah, I mean you don't really get much bold smells from Pilsners anyway.
No.
Maybe a bit of maltiness, but yeah. So interesting.
Can I ask a silly question? What makes it a Pilsners as opposed to just a craft beer? Is it a brand name or is it a style?
It's a
of
style,
making it?
so it's a lager rather than say an IPA or a pale ale or something.
Yeah.
So it's a different combination of ingredients, different quantities of those.
Fermentation process and all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, brewed in a slightly different way. But
Excellent.
yeah, makes it normally with kind of lagers and pilsners, whether you're going into sort of hellers or other kind of lagers as a catch-all kind of term for them, they're a lot lighter normally than sort of pales and IPAs and other styles. And this one is no different to that. If you drink your sort of standard macro brewed sort of lagers, there are a couple of different kinds of schools of them, and you get like your Causes and your Fosters and things which don't have a huge amount of taste. It's almost like lemony water, which is a bit fizzy. And then you get your other side, more your Belgian sort of brewed ones, your German kind of brewed ones, which have more of a hoppy note to them, which normally comes out kind of a little bit dank towards the end. They're a little bit stronger, a little bit fuller in flavour than your American sort of style lagers, which it's basically just coloured water essentially.
Yeah.
But this, it is coloured water, of course, but
Colored water with some alcohol content.
yes,
Yeah.
but it does have some nice little light flavours to it. So there's a little bit of fruit in there. It's not sort of easy to pick out exactly what that is, but it's edging more towards that kind of grapefruity note. There's maybe a little bit of a sort of a vinous quality in there as well, sort of towards the back end. So a little bit of a grape on there as well. And I think you're getting this sweetness from that end, and then a little bit of this slightly bitter kind of grapefruit in there as well, which are combining quite nicely together to make something very sort of well balanced. And it does have that very, very slight bitter finish to it. It doesn't last very long. It isn't very big, but it follows on quite nicely from this very easy, very clean sort of first flavour. So it's very easy to drink. It isn't too carbonated, so it's not sort of sitting quite heavy or anything like that. I can slug it back without sort of feeling gassy or anything, which is better as well because I'm getting more of that flavour with the bigger sort of gulps because it is quite a light beer.
I mean, it's Verdant, right? So has it got like that soft water quality?
Yes.
Or is it just a bit? Or is it more crisp?
It is crisp. It is nice and crisp. So it's harder to tell the water quality, I think, with that. It still does feel very soft in what I'm getting, but that first note is quite crisp, and then when that bitterness kicks in towards the end, it keeps that sort of that crispness, that slight, ever so slight kind of metallic note in there. Like it's not super metallic, but it's just got this note which kind of keeps everything crisp and up here and a little bit carbonated still. So it's got quite a lot of stuff going on for a Pilsner, whilst still remaining quite balanced, whilst still remaining very light, very easy to drink. It's very good. And to be expected from Verdant and Utopian as well, who I don't think exclusively make lagers, but they live in that space. Most of the beers that they brew are around that. So Verdant, I imagine, have gone, we want to make a Pilsner. Who should we collaborate with? Utopian are down the street, and they make these. They make quality lagers all the time. So let's get them up. Yes, for those who didn't see the can, very simple, very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's drink these drinks, and we shall move on to chatting about games this week. I've got a couple of things to talk about. Adam, I know both you and I have played the Iki Island expansion for Ghost of Tsushima, which we will come to. But Lucy, as you haven't been talking about your drinks this evening, why don't you jump in with whatever you want to discuss this week?
I haven't been playing a lot. The games that I got sent codes for are probably the only games that have like literally held my attention when I've been picking up games on the off times. Unless you lot want to hear about the hottest games in 2021 in Donkey Kong Country 3 and Quake.
Oh, mate, talk to us a little bit about Quake. Definitely, talk to us a little bit about Quake. I forgot there's a game you want to talk about, haven't you? Which is embargoed, which we can't actually talk about on the.
We can now.
Oh, okay.
Because it's Thursday and it's out tomorrow. So
perfect.
So it is
so the embargo's today.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's not so bad.
Great, but yes, Quake Remastered. I don't. It's just fun still. I was not a PC gamer because I was very young when Quake came out. Probably didn't get a PC till like early 2000s, around about 2002, 2003, or a PC capable to, run such games. But yeah, it's been fun. I played it online as well, which is just it's just such a novelty. I played it on Xbox Game Pass, so it's like just dropped and it was free, and it was like I enjoy going back to like original Doom 2 and stuff like that. It's like, let me try out Quake. But yeah, it's good. It looks good. The lighting's really good, and it's still fun to play. So yeah,
nice.
2021's hottest game from 1996.
I played.
When was the...
I don't know when it was first released. I played a lot of Team Arena, which is Quake 3. When maybe roughly when it came out, 6 months, maybe a year, kind of later after it had come out. So I think that's when again I had a very capable PC to be able to play those kinds of things, and we were playing, Team Arena, EverQuest, Age of Empires, whichever number it was at that similar sort of time. Those kinds of games.
Golden age of PC, yeah.
And I remember Team Arena just being like a lot of these games, just dumb fun.
Yeah, it is. This is a good like preservation thing to see. Like, yeah, bring it back. Probably like a small team inside of Bethesda did it. I think Machine Games did like a new chapter for like which Quake is it? It's a new episode for. I can't remember which one, but it's just like it's just a fun, cool thing, and because Bethesda, they upgraded and remastered like Doom 2, 64. Did they do 3 as well? Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's like, I mean, those games out of the gate weren't that great. Like some of the music and graphical fidelity was a bit off, but eventually like they patched it, and it's like, yeah, these are good things to see. Good. I mean, Doom's everywhere, and you can play Doom on everything, so it's like, yeah, keep
yeah, you can play Doom on things you're not supposed to be able to, because people keep hacking it onto it.
Yeah. Play Doom on
the test of whether it's got a computer in it. Can we put Doom on it? This toaster has a computer chip, so put Doom on it.
You'll probably find one day that Skyrim is also playable inside of Doom on whichever device that you're actually playing Doom on as well.
We'll get there. So yeah, I'm in 1996, and I don't want to leave currently. So.
I would go back that far as well, but I don't remember it. I was 2.
It was a good time. So yeah, I've just been going back. Like, I started AM2R, which is another Metroid 2 remake, which is the fan game.
Fan one, yes.
and it's really good. Nintendo. I know they remade that game, but like they took down the obviously DMCA the fan remake.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just like, download it.
Of course,
I'm not
Nintendo.
encouraging anybody to do that, but you know,
Nintendo got a
I did.
Nintendo.
Yeah, they had to. But yeah, I started that. I was just like, I need some more Metroidvanias. That's why nothing's been sticking recently, because it's like, I mean, I went back and played Hollow Knight because it's just like, I want Metroid Dread. Games are shit. I just want some Metroid. There's not enough of them. Let me go, you know, download this fan remake, and it's really good. It's the controls are really snappy. I'm playing on a, you know, gamepad, and it's just like just maps automatically. It's just runs well. Like I started up the game and it was like, oh, there's some screen tear. It looks a bit choppy, and I was like, I bet this game doesn't have VSync, but I'll just check in the options anyway, and it has V. Like, cool. You know,
Nice.
This is a really, you know, well-made thing. You know, yeah, it's. You just wonder if. I mean, there's obviously passion within Nintendo, but imagine if there's passion to, you know, remake games to this extent. And
Absolutely,
release them.
and how easy it would be for them to kind of outsource
10-person
these
team.
sorts of things to these little teams and say to them, actually, you know, we'll let you do this. This isn't an official kind of thing, but it's sanctioned in a way for you to be allowed to do this, but you have to meet, you know, quality standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And that would be something that could easily be put together. If it's, you know, he's got all of these options and things that you're sort of talking about, then it's, you know, the fans, and I mean not necessarily fans, but people out there just doing little passion projects and side kind of hustles and things are more than capable of creating these very well made experiences.
It's massively polished, yeah. So I agree. But yeah, I've just been doing some weird shit. Like I downloaded this typing game like called Type Dreams, which was pulled off the internet by the creator. So anyway, the Internet Archive. Anyway, yeah, I've just been doing some weird stuff. I've been, you know, going torrenting and doing all kinds of nonsense. But yes, that has been my last couple of weeks. Except for 2 games that I need to talk about.
Okay.
Which I have enjoyed thoroughly.
Quake 2 and 3.
Yes, but also, the first one is called Behind the Frame, the Finest Scenery. The subtitle. It is on PC, and I believe it is on. I know it's on iOS. I think it's on Android as well.
Okay.
This came out. I think it was the 25th, so around last week. This time last week. It is. I mean, as soon as you look at it, the only way to describe it is Ghibli-esque. I mean, Studio Ghibli, like the kind of animation style that gets thrown around all the time. But this like, how else do you describe this when you see it?
Oh, this is the painting one. Amazing. This does look beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes inspiration, obviously, from, like, you know, Japanimation and like Eastern animation styles and in the cutscenes, and then it sort of like pivots in like the actual gameplay to very like French watercolor Manet kind of look to it, inspirations. It's made by a Taiwanese team as well, and it's like, you could have fooled me because the game is so very set in France. You're basically playing as this woman. She is basically getting ready to, or trying to display her art in an exhibition in New York. And so basically, you have this canvas, which is, you know, got these outlines and you're lacking the coloured paints to fill it in, and the puzzles are. It starts off as just like, okay, puzzle game. I need to get these different, colours, complete this painting, and she's basically looking outside of her window. She's in this, apartment, high-rise apartment. She's looking out across to the other apartment next door, and she's basically getting inspiration from this old man and his cat. And basically, in the kind of like Ghibli-esque cutscenes, it's like it unfolds, seeing like what this man is doing, what the cat is doing, and she's basically taking inspiration. And she's like, oh, this old man and his cat, and then it's sort of like there's usually a picture inside of her apartment which corresponds to what she's seeing outside. And it's like, oh, I'm sure I've seen this scene in my painting. Okay, let me swivel to this painting in my room, color that in, and basically by completing that, it gives you an extra color. So to complete your canvas, because you only start off with like, I don't know, one or two colors, like yellow or something, and it's like, okay, I've seen this orange cat or whatever. Let me color in this in my in the picture in my room, and then you get the orange paint, and it's like, it is just like, okay, this is a puzzle game. This is how you're justify, and you just go with it. It's like, okay, I'm this is what I have to do. I have to get all the different coloured paints. It's like, I'm gonna have to get Roy G. Biv, and I'll be able to finish my painting. It's like, you don't really question it. It's a puzzle game, whatever. I don't want to spoil the story, but the way it unfolds, and the way it's like, okay, all of a sudden, this apartment that I'm in has turned into like a resident puzzle room where I'm getting these different coloured paint.
You may not leave until you have completed all 8,000 RAL colours or something.
Yeah. And there's even a bit later where it gets a bit ominous, and it's like, did this just turn into a horror game? And it's like, no. But it's just like, doing these weird puzzles, matching this picture to that picture, and it's like, okay, I'm getting new coloured paints. It's just, but you go with it, and you just go with it, and everything makes sense by the time you finish the game, and it's thematically where the story ends, the messages in the game, like, oh, okay, and it just ties together so well. I don't want to say more about it, because it's just like, it's only about an hour and a half, maximum 2 hours if you take your time with it. And I mean, the puzzles are fairly easy, so I'd say come to this game knowing that it's short, but the story in the game really impactful, especially right at the end.
Okay.
And
nice.
Come to it for like the animation, the music is lovely. Like, it's just this calm, very French cafe kind of soundtrack to it, and I just think it's like an ode to like the creative process as well. It's like every time you start a new scene, you're going into your kitchen, you're making a coffee, you're doing your breakfast, like egg on toast, which is like pretty good breakfast. And it's like, sit down, have your coffee, have your meal, that kind of I have that kind of like process, that kind of like routine where it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and go do work. I have like a green tea and do my New York Times crossword for far too long before I actually start doing work and stuff. And it's like, it's really that relaxing kind of, not just any process, creative process, just working process, whatever. It's like, and yeah, it's just a beautiful game. Like, the message is beautiful, the art is beautiful, the music's beautiful, the animation's beautiful. It's just a stunning game, and yeah, took me by surprise.
Amazing. Good.
That ending broke me.
Okay, so I've just had a look on the Play Store. It's $4.69 on the Play Store.
Yeah.
It's $7.19 on Steam. But I thought while I was here, I'd have a quick look at some of the reviews, and most of them say, one just says, cried lots, 10 out of 10, would cry again.
That's always a good review.
Yeah. And another one that you said, Lucy, this is the most French thing I've ever played made by non-French people, 10 out of 10.
Yes, absolutely.
And, pretty much all of the reviews just say that everyone cried.
Yeah, it's at first you just think you're playing, it's a puzzle game, very nice, and you just think, okay, just there to experience the art and the animation. It's like, no, it's got a really beautiful message and at the end. So yeah, I do recommend it. I recommend it to anybody. I'm very much someone who doesn't care how short games are.
Yes.
If especially, with the impact that this one has, it's one of my favorite games this year, and it took I took my time with it, like 2 hours, just to soak in that atmosphere. But it's just like, it's really good, and the ratings, the reviews, by the sounds of it, it's just, go play it, go buy it, go play it. I don't want to say anything more about it. So.
Sure, no, that's fair. Good, cool. And
that is, what's it called? Behind the Frame. Is it The Finest Scenery?
Yes, The Finest Scenery.
Yeah. Who's the developer? Who's the developer?
I just had a look at that. It's published by Akapura.
Yes.
Interactive? No, Akapura Games, because it sounds like Annapurna Games Interactive. Yeah.
No, another good publisher though.
Yeah, Silver Lining Studio is the developer.
That's the one. I was gonna say Silver Lining Bakery because that was a bakery that was. Anyway, Silver Lining Studio. Yeah, Taiwanese. Great game.
Cool.
Came out of nowhere. So yeah, really good. Really recommend that one. The other game that I played, it's another chilled out one, I guess. Very different to Behind the Frame. It's called Golf Club Wasteland, which will be out by the time you're listening to this, if you're not listening live. It's out on September the 3rd, which is the Friday. It's a cool little puzzle game with golfing. It's not. If you're looking for PGA Tour, then you're not going to find it. Even something like Store, you're not going to find it. It's a very simple, stripped down version of golf, where I played on PC, where you are just, using your cursor to aim, basically the angle of your shot and the intensity of your shot. I think I tried playing it on gamepad, and it was how to play the game. I think it's coming out on everything. PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and everything. It'd be interesting if the Switch version had like touchscreen controls. I probably doubt it. But yeah, I think mouse and code. It's just easier to play it with. But it's not the most involved game. You're not gonna. There's nothing to do with like wind direction or clubs or anything. It's very much just aiming and putting, and it's basically a round of mini golf, crazy golf in the apocalypse. So basically, you're playing on this. I want to call it like fictionalized version of Earth, post-apocalyptic Earth, but it's like this will happen.
Yeah, it's only 2 years away, and that is what the Earth will look like. Yeah,
if that. This game has a social commentary where it's like, I feel bad even calling it a social commentary, because this is what will definitely, where the billionaires will go off to Mars, leave everyone else to die on Earth, what they call the Great Catastrophe, and then they'll come back to Earth just as a golfing course, that will happen. It's definitely gonna happen.
We left Earth for very good reasons, but we missed one thing and one thing only: golf.
Yes.
It's just not the same on Mars. We just can't handle it, so we've come back.
Exactly. That changing gravity's just fucked golf up completely.
Yeah.
That and the dust. The dust gets everywhere. It's just no fun. It keeps ruining my clubs.
Yeah. That's what's gonna happen. But yeah, it's got this it's got this social commentary of like, capitalism will be the fall of us all, and just like, yeah, yeah, but it doesn't hit you over the head too much with it.
Okay.
It's obviously got something to say, and I think it's a really interesting like way to have like a little golfing game and put a different spin on it, a different setting. And I think it just works. It's I like that it doesn't bash you over the head with like social commentary. Keep your politics out of my games kind of.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's like it isn't like it doesn't go too deep on it. It's still just a relaxing kind of golf game. It's like if they had more to say, I would be averse to that. But the kind of structure of the game, it's more a puzzle game. So and I really like that kind of like political, setting and overarching themes to it.
Yeah.
So I thought it worked really well. And it basically has this like radio station from Mars just playing all the way through, which I'm a bit torn on because sometimes I liked having that like silence where it's like this place is just abandoned and it's like it was like kind of eerie and reflective of like what happened to Earth, and sometimes that like kind of quiet was nice. And then you have like this music. I don't even know what to call this music. It's got some weird tracks in it. It's like new age, something like new age synth or something. I don't even know, but it's weird. Some of the tracks are quite nice. Once I finish the game, I don't know if this is in the standard edition of the game, but you can just download the soundtrack, which is cool. So I might listen to it a bit later. Just pick out some of the interesting tracks that I found on it. But yeah, and you have these like kind of anecdotes from people who have now moved to Mars, like the billionaires and stuff like that, and just talking about, okay, this is what happened. Just giving you little bits of flavor text. This is what happened. This is what life is like now. Remember the before times. Let me just play some, some whale sounds or something like that. People remember the before times. And it's harrowing in a way, and and it's quite sad and melancholic, and it's interesting. But where I really enjoyed the game was like just in the golfing puzzle. They start off very simple, but then they take place in like overgrown parks, and then they go to like skyscraper, underground, sewage works, and it's really diverse in like the kind of putting areas that you go into. And some of them are trickier than others, but you can get it was just meditative challenges. Each one probably take you between 5 or sometimes up to like half an hour, and it's just as I say, the golfing isn't. Sometimes it feels a bit inaccurate. It's like, okay, I did most of the pretty accurate and pretty consistent, but sometimes it's just like, so as I say, you're not getting a very fine-tuned golf game here, but it was just fun going through these different little scenes, and it's fun. It's probably about 4 hours, I think, it's in it, and there's different modes where you can play a story mode, which is like, doesn't matter if you're under or over par, just get there. And if you
nice.
if you struggle, it's like you can just if you want to. So many if you just absolutely whiffing it like I did some of the ranges, it's like skip available. I'm like, no game, understand me. I played the story mode, which was like I didn't just knowing. I should have just played the challenge. Okay, you have to get par or under to go to the next stage, and it's like maybe I should have just done that because it's like I would reset every time if I didn't get like a perfect run. 'Cause that's the video gamer in me, and it's a disease. But yeah, I just played the chilled out one. It's like you know, if I don't get under par in some of these, because some of them are tricky, it's like whatever. But you do have the added incentive of getting par under because it unlocks like little diary entries. Just to give you a bit more flavour text,
that's good.
You know, about the story.
So there's no need to do that, but there is an incentive to try and perform as well as possible.
Yeah, but yeah, about 34. It's 35 holes, probably about 5 hours all in all.
Yeah,
and yeah, it was just chilled out. It was nice. As I say, really like the setting. The message, the art. It's like it's got like this very. The world sometimes looks a bit, you know, too colourful for the apocalypse. It's like it's got that, you know, nice bits of neon tinge, like some of the animals, their radio, like there's a cow with, you know, pink udders, neon udders, and it's just like, yeah, it looks really nice. It's cows with pink neon udders, really nice looking. Put that on the box. But yeah, it's really good. It's, as I say, it's not an involved golf game. It's very calming, despite its message. Very calming, relaxing puzzle game. So yeah, I recommend this one as well.
Nice, good.
And yeah, but I need to see the team. Was it Demagogue Studio? What was it?
Demagogue. Yeah.
Where are they from? I think they're from Europe.
I don't know. Golf Club is the only game they have listed on Steam. The publisher is the publisher's Untold Tales.
It is.
Maybe it's when I click
I'm on
Demagogue, it's
LinkedIn
kicking me to
page.
them.
Belgrade. Okay, Serbia. They're in Serbia. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, it does have that kind of maybe not sort of more Soviet
yes.
kind of you know, buildings at least to it, but there's definitely a feel to that. It's not sort of post-war Eastern Bloc kind of brutalism. It's almost a bit more of a capitalist kind of Eastern Bloc with towers in the background and things like that. But you do get, at least from Steam, there's kind of what looked like a scene with like anti-aircraft weapons kind of in the background, and then rockets, you know, and rocket stations set off in the background and stuff.
There's some good scenery, and I think that's a good observation, because I think it's like set in like maybe you're going across the whole world, because there are definitely signs in like Russian, and there's like, you know, very much Western architecture in that. So yeah, it might be going. You may be going across the earth, but yeah, there's good like little things to pick up in the background, and it isn't as, you know, in your face as like in the trailer where it just coffee or it's like okay, but yeah, but there are like little things to pick out of the environment.
Yeah,
which is cool. But
nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting golf game, and there's more than one way to, like, you know, reach the hole as well in some of these levels. So it's like there are alternative paths, which is like, yeah, cool, you know. And there are some inventive little things that you can do for it. Yeah, very much recommend it.
Perfect. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Nice. So that was the several recommendations from you this week, Lucy.
Yes, Quake and Donkey Kong Country 3.
Travel back in time to 1996.
Yes. And a fan remake of a game which you probably can't get anymore.
You can get it.
Okay, I'm sure.
But you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
There's no official channel to get said game, perhaps. But yes, there may be
just Google it.
ways and means to access.
Yeah, by using Google and looking at the top results. Because I looked at like, who cares? I looked at like a Reddit post and I was like, I just like, I want to get it. And like, they were like, we can't tell you where to get it, but then just type it into Google.
Yeah, if you type these exact words into a search engine,
and just click on the first link there is. That would be one way one could get it, but we don't recommend it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Good. Excellent. It seems like a good place for me to crack another beer because I have finished the Pilsner. Adam, how are you doing with the whiskey? Have you re-poured? Have you just been supping slowly at your first kind of glass?
I was just sipping away, and as you see, I have finished.
Nice.
It's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
As well as I said, I think a wee bit unaccustomed to drinking stuff neat. So getting a little bit of the... It's almost like my boy going, what the fuck are you doing? Kind of pushback on the burn from the alcohol itself, but the taste was very nice. There's nothing, unlike when I've tried some beers and stuff, there's nothing about it that's off-putting. It smells very nice. It's tasted, as I said, there isn't any particularly strong notes that really stand out to me, but I'm sure more experienced whiskey people would be able to tell me exactly what's in it. But yeah, no, I've enjoyed it, but I think I'm gonna save more of that for later. And then moving on to another decidedly Scottish thing.
Oh.
Which is Irn-Bru, specifically Old Irn-Bru, colloquially known as Old Brew. They claim that it's the same recipe they used in 1901. That is bollocks as far as I know. I don't believe that at all. That's marketing.
There's less lead in it this time.
So it's like if Coke suggested that, it would have crack in it. So like, yeah, there's no way.
I mean, it's Scottish, so yeah, that checks out, right? It's,
as well as I don't believe that. That's more marketing stuff, but it is definitely, a market improvement over what is the normal Irn-Bru just now. Because of course in Scotland we've had the sugar tax. I don't know if that happened down in England as well. And because Scotland is one of the handful of places that Coca-Cola is not the top drink, like soft drink in the territory where it's sold. I know it's not sold in every country in the world, but it usually comes top in most places. Here it's Irn-Bru. And one of the ways that kind of plays out is the fact that Irn-Bru has always been priced slightly below Coca-Cola. And so as Coca-Cola have tried to avoid putting their prices up by making the bottles smaller and smaller. They've stepped away from, instead of it being a 2-litre bottle, it's the 1.75 or whatever.
Right.
And now it's closer to like the 1.5 is the same price as a 2-litre bottle of Irn-Bru. But with the sugar tax, again, instead of putting the price up, they adjusted the formula and took more of the sugar out. And that meant more sweeteners, particularly aspartame, which caused problems because you can taste the sweetener in them. I think aspartame is definitely the one that gets blamed a lot of the time for that taste that you get off of those kind of drinks. It's particularly common in like the diet versions of drinks that you get. That tends to be what gets blamed for it. I don't know 100% if that is the cause of that taste, but... And then they decided, I think it was last year or the year before, they brought this out as a limited edition, where they basically said, it's the old way we used to do it, and it's better, and it is better. It's old and unimproved, which in this case translates as better, because it doesn't taste of aspartame. But it also comes in these nice glass bottles, and they are,
Mm.
you know, they are that wee bit more expensive because.
Yeah.
And then, after a huge outcry, when they did stop putting it on shelves, they've brought it back as a permanent feature again.
Nice.
That was,
It was always gonna be a
yeah, it was. The initial one was it's a limited edition. It's not going to last forever, but it was in every shop.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. You know, it's that kind of thing. But they did stop making it. And there was a good year or something before they brought it back again. I'm now struggling to open it. God's sake.
They're the Nintendo of soft drinks. Remember that thing you used to love as a kid? Bringing it back.
Yeah.
Remember when your drinks tasted of sugar and not?
Yeah. Making it limited edition.
So
Mario's
they've always
dying,
had,
March
yeah,
of
they've
Gold.
always had sweeteners and stuff in them, but
Mm.
you want it to taste nicer than. It's one of those. It's not that bad, but it was. It's one of those. It's not that bad now, but the comparison when the initial switch happened was quite poor, because you're immediately like, no, this tastes of sweeteners now because you've taken the
Yeah.
sugar out of it. Just put the price up, you idiots.
Yeah.
Bring the old stuff back and put the
Yes.
price up. And now they have. So I'm going to pour this in my traditional pint glass.
Okay. Amazing. I do like the trajectory that you're on as well, Adam. I feel like maybe the next time you're on an episode, you'll have a can of Buckfast or a bottle of Buckfast or something like
No.
you know, traditional Scottish drink.
I'll find other traditional Scottish drinks. As I'm sure many of us have had, we've all had the chat by parents about sex as well as drinking. And I got told essentially by my mother in no uncertain terms that if she ever caught me with a bottle of Buckfast, she would beat me to death with it. Like, she'd batter my melt in with it. So I was like, that was very much, you know, like that would have been when I was like 15 or 16. Like, you're around that kind of age, people start buying beers or what, or having them in houses or whatever. Like, I don't mind you trying stuff as long as you don't do anything stupid. I don't mind if you maybe have a couple of drinks of different things. But if I ever catch you with Buckfast, I'll fucking kill you. I'm paraphrasing slightly there. Sorry,
That's
Mum.
good
But
parenting.
yeah, but that was because. You know, it has the social connotations of it's for Neds. That's the sort of stuff you see people drinking in parks and causing, you know, vandals and blah blah blah. It has that kind of image to it. Well, certainly around where I live, anyway.
And
So-
everywhere in the world. Yes, that's all.
Yeah, it's one. If it's not Buckfast, you have that drink where you live. There will be everyone recognises.
lightning.
Oh, White Lightning, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Or the cans of Monster or whatever the other things used to be. What was the other thing? It wasn't White Lightning. Or Monster? What was it? There was something else, but
There was some, yeah.
oh, Mad Dog 2020. That was it. That's what it's called.
Well, that's a new
And
one
that's
for
it.
me.
That's a new one for me. Yeah,
Uh,
I gotta Google this.
Yeah,
Where
that
do
might
I
be-
buy it?
That might be another traditional Scottish drink I gave away there.
Yeah,
but
where do you buy it? Only in select stores in Scotland. Like,
Oh,
I tell you where you buy it. You
I-
buy it when you're 17.
I have
Illegally?
definitely seen
Oh,
this bottle before.
yeah, MD 2020 or something. It might not even be
Yeah.
called Mad Dog. That might just be what people here call it because it was
Mm.
MD. But I
I've
remember
seen
it being
this
called
bottle
that. But yeah,
nice.
so
Well, while we work out what you're going to be bringing on in the next episode, I'm going to open a beer. This is a double IPA, 8% from Quantock Brewery, who I saw down there with lots of bottles of what looked like more traditional beer, and then a few cans of, you know, IPAs and pales and double IPAs. Yeah, a lovely little bit of sort of dye art style stuff on the can.
it looks very nice.
Yeah, it does. It's got some flavour text. DIPA version 2. Well, our first DIPA sold out so fast we had no choice but to brew another. No matter how big or small your dream is, this big beer is bound to put a smile on your face. A few process tweaks from our previous DIPA and a touch more dry hopping. This is the next level QB Brew. This beast boasts flavours of tropical fruits and erupts with cracking aromas of coconut and citrus. It's got Citra, Idaho 7 and Sabro in it. 8%. Gives me the normal allergens on the back, so it doesn't give me any other ingredients. But I thought it would be interesting to try a more modern beer from a, I suppose, older, more traditional brewery. And we will see the results of this. They are Taunton based. So yeah, down in Devon. No, Somerset Taunton, isn't it? Yes, it is. Purchased in Devon, I suppose. So I will correct this.
Sorry, I'm looking at an article of the Alka-Pops in the 90s, and it's like, yeah. Because I was like, I've seen that Mad Dog before, and it's just like, yeah.
You're down the rabbit hole, Lucy.
Yeah.
You'll have seen it down the park.
Reef. Remember Reef?
Either in somebody's hand or scattered in a bush somewhere. you will have seen it. Yeah.
I always remember as like a 14, 15-year-old, you had a couple of quid and you could either, buy White Lightning, or you could spend maybe like 50p more and buy a 3-litre bottle of Woodpecker's cider.
That was the one, yes, the cider. Because I was thinking, which cider was
about £2.50? Something like that for a 3-litre bottle.
Dirty, man. I just remember like opening that and it just going, and like all this toxic gas just coming out of the top of it. It's just like, and it's just like, I shouldn't be putting this in my body.
Smell this.
Yeah, even as like an 18-year-old, I shouldn't. Yeah, I'm still going to.
Yeah, and just for the record, Ben, for your mother's ears, how old did you say you were? 14 or 15?
Oh.
It's fine. It's fine. My parents absolutely know how much of a nightmare I was as a kid.
They always do, don't they? They always do.
When suddenly they peer over a bush and they're like, all right, yeah, fair enough. We'll go home. It's fine. We know he's smashed.
I waited until I was 30 for my first drink. So, yeah.
Very late starter. Huh?
Hang on, wait a minute. How long have you been podcasting? We'll come back. We'll come back to the. I know you sort of already mentioned, Adam. The Irn-Bru is, this old Irn-Bru, or the 1901 kind of recipe brew is better than Irn-Bru. But is it literally just those kind of sugary tastes that make a difference, or is there something else in there?
No, I think. No, that is the main difference. Is just it still has sweeteners and stuff in it, but the taste flavor is just that bit more natural, I guess. For something that is a weird orange color that a lot of people who have never seen it before see and go, "What the fuck? People drink that? That looks poisonous." It's a very distinct color. Irn-Bru is, but yeah, it is just the regular stuff now has that kind of sweetenery. I don't know what the right kind of description is for it, but you probably all experienced it. Just that wee bit of that it lingers that little bit longer when the rest of it disappears, whereas this is just. It's just a very nice tasting drink, and it's very refreshing.
I imagine it's incredibly fizzy. I always remember Irn-Bru being really fizzy.
I mean, maybe, but I'm used to it, to be honest.
Yeah, I haven't had it in probably over 10 years at this point.
Yeah, I always find diet drinks tend to be the worst for being fizzy. I don't know why. That's maybe just a bad batch or something I have memories of, because it's very much I drink it for the sugar. I do. Like, I'm not under any illusions about that, but yeah, it's very nice and refreshing. It would have been more refreshing if I'd started with it because it was fresh out the fridge, but but I definitely thought I'd better having the the whiskey on a clean palette, and
Yes,
then have
absolutely.
that to wash everything down with, and have
Nice.
a nice rest of the podcast.
Yeah, good.
Hopefully.
Good.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
To be confirmed.
We'll find out in about 30 minutes. We will. I'll come back to the Quantock then. This Chasing Dreams dipper. It looks like a dipper. It's very, very deep.
Nice.
It's sort of this kind of slightly orange straw colour, thick, absolutely thick, solid colour. Nice lacing on the glass as well from the head. The nose is that. Yeah, I mean, it's a modern dipper, right? It's got those fruity notes, but it also sways that little bit more towards that kind of vegetal sort of end of things, that more earthy kind of note, and that very much matches through in the flavour as well. So it kicks off with a little bit of sweetness, maybe a little bit of mango, and then just ripens, like almost in your mouth. This mango that you've just tasted just ripens right down, and it becomes this more, not bitter, but this more kind of fermented sort of flavour to it. You know, it gets a little bit more earthy, gets a little bit more it's such a this earthy, vegetal, oniony, salady kind of note that is just, you know, there's so many words for this end of this kind of trend of dippers that we're seeing at the moment, and nothing ever quite captures exactly what it is. I think we've sort of used stewed before, where we thought it's a little bit sort of over fermented kind of fruits and that sort of stuff, and it is somewhere in this kind of region. But again, like a couple of the other dippers that I've had of this kind, it works quite well. It's not an off-putting flavour. You know, you tell someone, oh, it's a bit earthy, or it's a bit vegetable-y, or a bit oniony, and you think people go, nah, mate, why would you fucking drink that? But again, it just doesn't quite describe.
Are you drinking from your plate? Is that what you're doing?
Which is, I mean, me at a standard dinner time, just lift it up and just smash it back. But yeah, it doesn't quite get it, does it?
Someone will come out with the right word eventually, stick it on Untapped, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's the one I want.
You know what this tastes like? Beer.
Yeah.
That's what it tastes like.
Exactly. But yeah, this is a solid dipper. It hits those notes. It's nice and sweet to start, and as I say, it kind of ripens in the mouth as that flavour goes on. Again, not much bitterness on the end of this. I think the Pilsner had a little bit more of a danker, bitter finish, you know, especially with that nice, clean, crisp sort of start to it. That change between those flavours in the Pilsner, kind of, whereas this flows. It sort of, you know, as it ripens in your mouth, you know that change is kind of coming, and it happens, and that's it. That's kind of all this does. It doesn't do much more, but it's got a little bit of an oily kind of mouthfeel to it as well, so it makes it feel a little bit big. So I think it's, you know, from these first few sips, from this first third of the glass, it's well made. It's hitting, you know, 2021 modern kind of dipper notes that you would sort of expect. I don't think it's not doing anything different. It's not changing that formula up kind of too much. But again, it's just quite easy and simple, and it's not overburdened by trying to do too much either. So I don't think you'd go wrong if you like that. Well, the version of dippers that we're getting this year, this is a solid example of that.
Yeah.
So I will keep cracking back with it.
Looks nice.
I mean, it does look nice. And I think I'm going to jump in. I've got a game to chat about. And as we were talking about the 90s earlier, it would have been a perfect segue into what I'm playing, because I have played through a game called The Big Con.
Oh yes,
which is a it's sort of a point and click game. But
Defraud that guy. Defraud that guy. Defraud that guy.
well, there's a lot of pickpocketing going on. But
Skyrim.
It's kind of
literal or metaphorical, Ben?
no, absolutely literal. Absolutely literal. It's kind of a more modern point and click game. It's not, LucasArts kind of combining items and all of this sort of stuff to move through puzzles. It's much more essentially you're a girl called Ali whose mum is well into like loan sharks and is going to lose her her video store, right? Super 90s. It is set in the 90s.
Yeah.
She's going to lose it. She needs to come up with, I think, close to $100,000, like $97,000 to pay off the loan shark to be able to keep.
It's $1 million.
Exactly, in the 90s, that was lots and lots of money. But you play as Ali, who overhears all of this and is essentially being carted off to kind of like band camp. So she can play in front of like scouts who may give her scholarships to kind of like music schools and university and that kind of thing, right? But she decides that she's going to go on this trip after meeting someone who says, "Hey, I can help you. I can help you get all of this money." She decides to skip all of that and travel across a little bit of sort of America on her way to a fake Las Vegas to try and pickpocket and con people out of a bunch of money. Firstly, this is the most 90s aesthetic game I think I have ever played.
It looks like a cartoon Nickelodeon.
It's Nickelodeon. It's Nickelodeon 90s, right? It's kind of a little bit of Doug. It's a little bit of Clarissa Explains It All. It's got a little bit of the the jagged, solid Saved by the Bell shapes to it. It is Nickelodeon 90s the video, and we're getting Nickelodeon Beat 'em Up or whatever that is game is coming out at some point, and hopefully it's got all of these horrible swipes and swirly colours as like loading screens and things like that. Although they don't really exist these days. But yeah, it screams 90s. It screams Nickelodeon TV 90s, which is a fun take for this. It fits very well with the sort of the story, this kind of not even coming of age kind of story, but Ali is a little bit kind of not unconfident, but she definitely grows as a person sort of through this, and you get a nice amount of sort of character building in this and sort of exposition into sort of the world and things like that. It feels very well written. Aesthetically, it's really good, and essentially you're walking around environments, standing behind people, holding down Y in the case of the Xbox pad I was playing on, and waiting until your cursor hits a bar so you can pickpocket them and you take various amounts of money from them. Or you can do other things, right? And this is where the point and click element comes in. So you can discover items that might be lying around, items you might have to do a little bit of conversing to get from other characters, and then take them to other characters, and essentially Ali will do a little bit of dialogue. She tries to sell it to somebody and get a bit more kind of money for it. And to progress through each level, you're looking to get X amount of money to then move into the next. You got to pay for your train ticket, so you need that amount to do it, and you can earn more through the level and take that kind of with you on. But it almost feels like a lot of the puzzles and little bits in each of the levels are not required. Essentially, once you've hit your goal, you could just move straight on to the next level. So you work your way through a mall, you then jump on a train. And I think one of the downsides, one of the biggest criticisms for this game, is that when you hit the sort of the fourth environment, you've gone from little town into a mall into sort of this side-scrolling train between maybe 4 or 5 cars, and then suddenly you're in a much bigger environment. and you've got kind of objectives that you sort of need to go between, and it takes you a little bit of time to orientate yourself around this sort of space, to know kind of where you're going without fumbling about, like, oh, have I pickpocketed this person? Oh, what's in this kind of building? What am I sort of looking for? It sort of, it doesn't scale up along with its pacing as well as I think it could have done. But that's kind of maybe not my only criticism, but is the biggest criticism I think that I can pick out essentially with this. And I definitely felt lost when I got up to that. And maybe they wanted that, you know, I'm playing as a 17-year-old girl who's only ever really lived in her kind of hometown, and you can read into this as much as you want, but it didn't signpost things enough as a game to not make me feel lost within this space that I was sort of playing through, without still making me feel that, but giving me enough to be able to progress through reasonably. It also absolutely just throws the morals out of the window, and you don't question anything, right? It's like, hey, let's start pickpocketing people and getting money. It's like, well, surely we should find a way to raise this. It's like, nah, just steal it all from everybody. And
pickpocketing in the 90s was fine. It's fine.
well, is this the message? Did everyone just pickpocket in the 90s to
I
be able
mean,
to buy
she
that
looks like
bottle of woodpeckers? I mean,
Ali looks like Alex Mack, and I'm sure that there were questionable things in that show.
probably
It's
were.
no surprise,
Absolutely.
Lucy, that you think pickpocketing was fine in the 90s, since
It
you're
was.
forwarding stuff today.
You don't like you kind of there's a couple of conversations around it and things, but there's never really, and they're all kind of tongue in cheek. It's sort of should we do this? Yeah, let's do this. And again, that feels very much like one of these 90s TV shows. It's like Keenan and Kel, where Keenan's like, I've got a grand scheme, and Kel's like, I don't fucking know. Sure, why not? Let's just crack on and do it. So it still has
We called it hijinks, not crime, in the 90s.
What was it on South Park? Shenanigans. Shenanigans. So it definitely there is absolutely a kind of an underlying element that it could have played through with this as well, but they've chosen to just completely throw that aside and not even bring up the question or try and answer any of those kind of bigger issues sort of around this, and that's fine. That's there's nothing wrong with that, and they've very much sort of, you know, just pulled away from it. They've not even really attempted to do it. Most of it is humor when they have had those kinds of questions to it. But it's I said kind of earlier that it's very modern in its kind of point and click kind of things, and it's not a game where you're pixel hunting stuff. It is just, oh, this person wants this, and there's a shop which does these things. Cool, let me go and investigate. And what you need,
shoplift.
Yeah, well, exactly. You do shoplift. You shoplift shit as well. What you need will very much be there, and you have to work out how to get that without somebody seeing you. That is it. That is the kind of point and click kind of element to it. It's more item collection and exchange than, say, point and click kind of puzzles and things. So it's very light in that. It's more of an adventure game, really, with a little bit of kind of like dialogue choice, and the main mechanic is just standing behind people and pickpocketing them, making sure you hit that bar without getting caught. And through my playthrough, I never got caught 3 times in one run, and they very much said at the start, if you get caught 3 times, you're done. And so I don't know what happens if I get caught 3 times. I feel like I should go in and play the first level just to see what happens. But if you do fail on pickpocketing someone, or you kind of mess up a set of kind of like dialogue and conversational options, and you know you've got an item that you want to sell to someone, but you fuck that up, if you walk away and you have found in the level a disguise which runs the gambit of masks and hats and glasses and moustaches, you can just go straight back up to them and engage in that dialogue again, or try and pickpocket them again. And
I did see a screenshot of like Ali just wearing a top hat, and I was like, "This game looks all right." Just creeping down
there
the
was
street.
one man. I ran around a map just with a little raccoon mask on, just because it looked cool. I didn't even fuck up. I just wanted to put the raccoon mask on. Just ran around with the entire map with the raccoon mask, and it kicked up like in the so it cuts when you're having dialogue between characters. It doesn't stay in the play screen. It cuts to a screen which kind of, as soon as it cut there, it just instantly made me think of Toe Jam, and it's kind of one character chatting with these, all of these like jagged shapes or swirly shapes in like two-tone colours, kind of pulsing background, and then it would cut to the other, cut to Ali or another character chatting. And what I like is that Ali always has the item on during these scenes as well, so it doesn't take you out of that. It's not like, oh, here's just a pre-rendered scene. It's like, here is what Ali is currently, here's what you've equipped her with, and this is the conversation that she is having. So it kind of keeps you in that space still, which I think is a lovely little touch. But it's this weird mix of 90s Nickelodeon point and click Toe Jam and Earl inspired adventure game, which is really easy. It's very accessible, really easy to play. There's no barrier to entry in kind of difficulty in puzzles or kind of knowledge of point and clicks, which is why I feel like it's a much more kind of like modern take on the point and click kind of adventure sort of game, which is odd for a game that's very 90s in almost every other way. So I think, Lucy, you would absolutely love this.
Yeah. I mean, it's on my wish list and on Xbox and Steam, so it's just like, I'm sold.
Good. I was going to bring up who it's made by, because I don't think I mentioned that. I think it's developed by Mighty Yell and is published by Skybound. So yeah, it's on Steam. I can't say how much it is because it tells me I can just play it.
It's £10.99.
£10.99. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, me being in 1996, this thing's like right up my alley.
Yeah,
Playing
absolutely.
Quake and Donkey Kong Country and pickpocketing people. Sounds great.
Completely. And people of roughly around our age, from kind of like their mid-20s to their sort of like mid-40s, will very much vibe with this aesthetic. It will be very, very familiar to you as soon as you kind of see it, and I think that works very, very well, and does so in the way that it plays as well, that it isn't evoking those 90s games. It's not asking you to do all of the point and click stuff of sort of the LucasArts games and things. You're not pixel hunting around. A lot of stuff you can miss, and it doesn't matter whether you miss it or not. You don't have to check every single thing, or although I tried to do kind of a lot of stuff and realised there was a few mistakes that I'd made to not maybe maximise the amount of money I was getting at the end of each level, but I was still getting enough to progress through to the next kind of area. So it's just a fun game, and again, it's probably only 4 or 5 hours long, something like that. Steam says I played 4.9 hours. I hate how Steam does this. 4.9 hours. What's that? 4 hours 54 minutes or something like that. I don't know.
I'm considering buying it on Xbox very soon.
Yeah.
I have money in my account, but I was hoping that would go to a new Xbox, which I managed to get I managed to find one. Managed to get an Xbox. That'll be arriving in a couple of months.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I assume the Series X.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just so that I can play Flight Simulator. It'll be my flight simulator boss.
Wait, hang
Good
on.
call.
You've already played Flight Simulator on your PC.
I have, but not enough. Not enough. Plus, that game's big.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's big and it runs. I've got a pretty powerful PC, but plus it's just like I'd have to worry about space on my PC, like
Mm-hmm.
because I mean downloading it to the C drive was just that.
That was a
I
mistake.
queued it up overnight, and it was like, okay, this will take 11 hours, and it did. It was just like, so yeah, I'd write Xbox. It'll be there. Just access it whenever I want.
Nice.
Even though it'll probably be on storage is weird on those new consoles. So Flight Simulator is the only game I'll be able to play
Well, that's fair.
because it'll take up the whole hard drive. So.
I mean, it's the only game that you can play on an Xbox these days, isn't it? There's no other games to be able to play, so it's,
No.
absolutely.
That is very true. Like, I mean, you'd have to pay, like PlayStation, you can't even upgrade your game. Like, I want to play it on my Xbox Series X. Sony would be like, no.
No, I can't do that. Sorry, give us 10
You
quid.
you can't even, no, you can't even, you see the Horizon thing? You can't even pay. To
Have you
upgrade
seen
from
that?
PS4 to
Did you see that there's a $70 version and then an $80
think
version,
there
and
was
the
six
$80
versions.
version, not the basic version, but the second version has photo mode. You don't even get photo mode with the basic
Really?
fucking game. Fuck
No.
PlayStation for that. I fucking like that. That's the most nuts fucking thing.
Really?
Yep.
That's bad. That's
Absolutely.
really bad. Because
It's
like all their
fucking
games
nuts.
have it, and they're all.
Yeah. And people
And you
fucking
love that,
it.
Ben. Yeah,
I
yeah.
fucking-
That's
how am I going to play
that's
Horizon
skeevy.
without being able to take all these fucking photos?
that's
You
less
ruined my
forgivable
night.
than the
I knew
upgrade.
this would go wrong.
Sorry, Adam.
The podcast is terrible.
That's out of order.
I mean,
That's shocking.
it
That's
is
bad.
shocking. It is shocking, and I imagine there'll be hopefully enough
I hope there's enough pushback.
haranguing and pushback for Sony to turn around and be like, yeah, that's
It's-
shitty. Like, yeah, charge £10 more and give 6 outfits for Aloy to wear, which I don't give a shit about. That's fine. Don't block off features which
Yeah.
are not. It sounds.
There's
a
no
bit-
reason why that couldn't be implemented at the same ease on the PlayStation 4.
Absolutely.
There's no reason. Maybe it's
I guarantee
it's
it's
'cause
not
it-
even in at launch because it usually isn't. They usually patch it.
yeah. Just patch it. It's not like the game's gonna look terrible. It's like we don't take it PS4. Because it's like you can still do that anyway with the share button. So it's like that's really skeevy.
And
Yes.
the game that we're going to talk about in a moment very much shows the
yeah.
limitations of the share button on PS4 because you're
Oh, I
limited
hate
to-
that thing. I always
Yeah, let me-
pressed it, think I was pressing select.
I
hate it.
like the functionality of the button, but the limitations of the actual capture keeps you at 720p,
Yes.
and well, one, that's terrible anyway, and two, when when you're looking and setting up shots of it, and then you see it after you've posted them, and you go,
Like, what is this crap?
"You're supposed to be
smeared
this is the easiest way to advertise the game, and you're limiting the resolution I can show it. Like, at least let me show it as I see it on my fucking TV, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because
you'd
it's so
imagine
fucking nice.
1080p,
Yeah.
minimum. Maybe
Well,
video, yeah.
The PS5
but-
should be 4K now.
And,
because
exactly.
it
I think,
is.
I think Pro, like a PS4 Pro, is not capped at 720p, right?
Oh, is it not?
That is capturing it higher. So I
I'm
think
gonna
that's,
I'm gonna launch
yes,
one.
as am I. As am I.
That made
So
me worry.
every shot again that I set up, and we're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima, and I think we've already said that is one of the most beautiful games, not just on PlayStation but in existence. and you do just want to constantly take photos in that game. And it's, Sony have gone, these 6 games, these 10, 15 games, whatever, have photo mode in. That's generated 20 million, 50 million, screenshots or whatever from it. Hey, let's monetize this shit. You're like, nah, that ain't it. All I want to do is just press F11 and just take that fucking. You
monetize it by
F12
letting people do that
Steam.
easily, so that people go, "Oh, that game looks cool. I'm gonna buy it."
Yes,
that's how you monetize fucking photo mods. That's what they're for.
And there's such a big community now on Twitter and Instagram and things that have all built up around photo mode, and a lot of the times they've come through from Horizon, Days Gone, various games, various Sony games which first implemented these photo modes, and having some kind of changeable, editable mode within the game, which then pushed people to play with it more and more and more, and then set up these communities and this kind of thing. So to then gate it is just fucking skeevy.
Yeah, I've been listening to Jeff Grubb's podcasts and stuff recently, and he's been saying like PlayStation they don't want to catch on the Game Pass train or the smart delivery train or something, and he said it's because like people want them to be different from the
Sure.
And I just think it's how sad do you have to be where you want the other your favorite platform to be doing things? I don't want to throw around and a bit skeevy and a bit like pay us more for the prestige. How sad are you on detriment by the fact that PlayStation are doing this just to differentiate themselves, Microsoft and Nintendo? It's sad.
Absolutely.
But he's been hammering home. It's like the PlayStation fans. I'm not talking about people who just enjoy playing on that console more. I'm talking about like the people who would literally die for Sony, the weirdos out there. That they will not hold want it to be different. And I'm just thinking, and then this news came out and it was like he was absolutely right, because I saw people defending this decision.
Really?
And I'm just like, yo.
The irony of that as well is they want it to be different from Microsoft and Nintendo, and the irony of that is I see them copying Nintendo and all.
Yeah.
They're following the trajectory of Nintendo, and that they're not competing with their rival anymore. They're trying to cultivate themselves as, we are PlayStation. You come to us to play PlayStation games that you don't get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's Nintendo have Mario and blah blah blah, and Sony are saying, well, we have Sucker Punch, and
we
have these developers that you love these games. This is what you come to us for. This is our way of doing that. And ironically, I see them traveling down that same path of, well, we don't really need to follow what Microsoft is doing.
They'll just be like, F you.
They're just regular company, and we are special, and that'll either work because they'll keep making good games, even though the business side of it is getting more and more frustrating compared to how the PS4 generation started, or it'll end in catastrophe. And Sony have flirted with catastrophe plenty of times in recent memory as a company as a whole. PS4 saved that fucking company in a lot of ways, because it was the only part of them that made shitloads of money. So
I think PS4 and imaging
back in.
Yeah. It was PS4 and imaging sensors, I think, was the only thing that made Sony money over the last 4 years. Yeah, it's something ridiculous that they made, and everyone else has gone, oh, we just use Sony's ones. We don't need to bother making these anymore. We'll just buy them all off Sony. So, but again, Sony's in this weird place, right? That they've just changed Japan Studio to now be, I think, just called Asobo Studio, which made the
that robot game.
Yeah, what's the fucking robot game called? Astro's Playroom, and then the one that was built in with the PS5 and that, and they seem to very much focus on that. But then there was news again today, or rumours at least, that they are starting up a new studio in Japan, and have been poached. I know there's been a lot of chat about NetEase picking up people and developers and stuff. So, going from...
Is it the Yakuza guy from...
Yes, they poached him and a couple of other people. But then there's this stuff that this new PlayStation studio, which is very much Japan based, has been bringing in people from ex Konami people, because loads of people were laid off when Konami kind of restructured. Capcom,
eFootball, the company.
yes, just eFootball, eFootball Pachinko company. Man, I tell you what's weird, on a completely different tangent, and I think I've talked about this before on here, but going into an arcade on a Haven holiday park, a big caravan site, and the arcade is basically a who is it? Is it Bandai Namco?
Sega.
Like, every machine is Bandai Namco. Everything.
Oh, really?
Yep.
All
of it.
Pac-Man and stuff.
It's all Pac-Man. It's all Pac-Man. They've bought licenses, I imagine, for various different arcade cabinets. There's like a Halo cabinet. There's a Jurassic Park shooter kind of cabinet and stuff. But everything is branded.
Yeah.
With Pac-Man and Bandai Namco and stuff like this. And you just think, this is the... if Konami are in this space. This is Konami, just not here, but over in Japan. Like, you probably walk into an arcade in Japan, it's just everything is Konami. And that is the space they've gone to. So you can see why, perhaps, PlayStation would go, we can basically just open up a new studio on anyone that was Konami working on console games. They could just all come to us now. Thank you very much. And there may be other people that we can kind of pick and tempt away from their current employees. And I think there was, again, Capcom, Square Enix, a couple of other people that they've tried to sort of bring in. And there was some comments from Jim Ryan who said, I think it was Jim Ryan, who reiterated very much like, no, it was Herman Hulst in an interview that Herman Hulst had just done. He very much said, no, we're very much intact to our Japanese roots. We really want to kind of build on that. And obviously got Polyphony and then Asobo now as well. But having another big AAA level first party kind of Japanese based developer to make games for that audience and sort of the wider world and things very much kind of makes sense for them.
That's good, yeah.
And it's good, but how many of them are going to come out at 50 quid and then have a £60 game with a fucking photo mode on it?
Well, none of them are going to be 50 quid because that's cheap these days.
That's true. No, that's absolutely true. How many are going to be 70 quid and then come up with 80 quid with the fucking photo mode?
Because in the UK it is 70 quid, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Brexit.
I don't know. No one knows because no one can get a fucking PS5. No one knows how much these games are.
So keep it, Sony. I'm not paying £70 for flipping Horizon. I can't even upgrade.
Exactly.
Or take a picture.
Talking of Sony, talking of PlayStation, why don't we talk about the Iki Island expansion, or not even that, the director's cut edition of Ghost of Tsushima?
Before we jump in, you remember when James Stephanie Sterling, it was her, who said, "Oh, this is going to be the new theme, isn't it? Where it's no longer just DLC or something. It's like buy the game again."
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And she was absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm directed there, or is it just Death Stranding and?
So far,
So far.
Lucy. So far, the
By the
rumored,
Uncharted Lost
yes,
Legacy.
exactly. The rumored The Last of Us, the first game remake will probably just be called The Last of Us Director's Cut, but it'll be a completely different game. Yeah. Anyway,
Play as the mushroom people in the
Anyway, being a samurai, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Pretty.
it's very, very easy to bash Sony in a business point of view because their messaging is fucked. But, well, their PR department of, I don't know, have gone on strike or something because it's terrible. But the one thing that they're good at is actually developing games. So, thank fuck for that. Otherwise, this would be a terrible podcast for them. But yeah, no, it's very good. It's very, very good.
It is very good, and it's not. I think this is the problem, and part of the issue with branding it kind of like a director's cut, and they've included other features and things like that in it. And actually, as a PS4 user, I was able just to buy the kind of like the upgrade to that version. So
like
I got
15 quid or something like that.
Yeah, it was 15 quid
Just to get the expansion, pretty much.
So I got the extra island kind of thing, and it is just more Ghost of Tsushima. If you like that game and you finished it and you want more, then absolutely jump into this.
Yeah, I was going to say before we talk about like details about it, as much as I think it unlocks after you get to like the second act if you're playing the game for the very first time. However, I would suggest that you finish the normal game first and then play the Iki Island expansion because of the enemy types that you encounter. Yeah, I got my ass handed to me a few times when I first picked it back up because it's been a while since I really played any length of it because it came out a year ago, the original game, and or maybe even more than a year ago now. So some of the enemy types are they are end game, like difficult level, throwing new challenges at you that you don't face in the regular game. That you'll do better encountering them when you've completed the story on Tsushima and then move on to stuff in Iki Island. That's definitely the better way to play them, I would think, as opposed to getting to it when it unlocks and becomes available to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as a note for anyone that's not played it or hasn't gotten to it yet. That is the way I would recommend doing it.
Yeah,
because they are a pain in the ass. Some of them.
Well, I was quite lucky in that when I loaded the game back up, I was right at the top of the map. And the mission is on that second island. It's quite far down, and I didn't fast travel. I made my way through to go down there, so I kind of refamiliarized myself with the controls. And actually, it's quite an intuitive control scheme in terms of how you can switch between stances, the different items that you've got at your disposal. It's a game. You have to hold a button and press a direction to change items. That happens in kind of every game, but everything is very well. The UI works very well to show you exactly what everything is and know what everything is to then come and it slows the time down as well. So when you're picking those kinds of things, it can be very easy, and then you can just go back straight into combat, and it can feel very fluid. And I think that's absolutely what they were trying to go for with this game. Everything feels very, very fluid, and that goes straight over to Iki Island as well. And whilst it doesn't really add any sort of new combat features, it does throw in charging on your horse, so you can absolutely just charge towards enemies, smash a couple of them over, and then jump out of your saddle and slice someone with a katana, and then go straight into combat with maybe the last couple of people who haven't run away from that encounter. And it does, like, the combat in that game is beautiful. It just, you constantly want to be fighting people, even though fighting people is only like 20% of what you actually do in that game.
Yeah, it's very, very refined in the way that, because Jin is a well-trained, that's his life. He is a samurai. That is what his life is. He was trained most of his life, or to use a sword and to fight in battles, and has done on previous occasions all throughout his life before the mayhem with the Mongols took over. So yeah, it does feel very refined. The combat feels very deadly, which I like, because katanas are supposed to be deadly. And you're right, it doesn't give you an awful lot of new things to do, but they keep the challenge fresh by introducing the new enemies that I kind of prefaced all this with. Which is, some of them switch weapons on you, and that means you have to change stances mid-fight to deal with them. So you're not just changing stance to deal with, okay, so there's two guys with swords, then a shield guy, and then the bow person over there. You'll have a few enemies that you start encountering that'll be standing there with a shield out, and then you'll kind of line up to use your, like, charge attack on triangle button, and he'll just switch weapon, and then he'll pull out his spear, and you're like, oh damn, this isn't. I need to change stance now and readjust, and that sort of thing, and it keeps the encounters very fresh, because that kind of progression in the enemies was quite clear in the regular game beforehand as well, and that you felt like they were reacting to how you've developed your tactics. So they started wearing helmets because you kept bowing them in the head, and that sort of thing, and they start developing kind of countermeasures to try and deal with what you throw at them to throw you off. And that's what this feels like. It feels like they've realised, it's a different group of Mongols anyway, but they've gotten a kind of sense of, right, these samurai people know what they're doing, so we'll mix things up and try and keep them guessing as to what we're going to do, and make it life difficult for you. And it works really well as a challenge, because it's you spent all that time playing this game and learning all these techniques and moves and gaining all your ghost items and your smoke bombs and whatever else. Now you need to use them, because you're going to need them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Straight up, just katana fighting everyone isn't as easy as it was before.
Completely. It has absolutely opened it up to make you feel like you need to use all of your arsenal in an encounter. I know when we talked about it before, Adam, that it has that feel that if you're in a 4-on-1 situation, that actually you're pretty fucked. Because they circle you, and the way the camera moves as well, you've got to pull everything round, so it doesn't just fix on your back. So you could suddenly be turning and have this enemy that you're facing that's now off camera, so you've got to pull the camera around with you as well, when actually you're concentrating maybe on the guy that's behind you or something. And there's lots of ways that it feels like the AI has improved, and technologically has kind of improved as well within this, with enemies being able to be like, here's enemy 1 and here's enemy 2, and actually now we have one enemy which does both of these things, and will then come at you if they feel that they're on the back foot, and they will change what they're kind of doing. They've taken a couple of hits, so they will change their weapon type, and it's always felt reactive, but even more so now, which again feels like one of the benefits of PlayStation, right? And then having all of these studios which exchange information and technology and these kinds of things, that games will always be kind of the pinnacle of what they can be kind of technologically, because someone goes, I really want to do this, can we do it? And someone says, well, we could write it, or these guys have done this, let's take that and adjust what they've done to then fit what we need it to do, and refine that. And it seems like a really good way of kind of like collaborative work between studios, that suddenly you've gone, that was definitely something that I picked up on, that this guy with a sword and a shield suddenly put his shield away and brought out another sword. And I'm like, oh shit, fuck, change stance, quick. And already he was coming at me with 2 swords and just knocked me back. I'm like, fucking hell, okay, reset myself, now understand that this is something else that they can kind of do. And it does present that extra challenge, which is good in a game which, again, doesn't introduce anything kind of new in terms of the abilities that the character kind of has.
Yeah. The combat in the Iki Island expansion sort of mirrors the sort of trajectory of the game design from the original, in that sense that, like, the open world design doesn't really do anything particularly new. It is building on that kind of Ubisoft kind of popularized style, and they've very well fit everything in thematically to what you're doing, so it feels very natural, and they've not overdone it or anything. They're taking that and used the kind of most refined version of it in a similar way to Insomniac Spider-Man did. And the combat here feels like we're getting that same sort of... The baseline is the combat you've already experienced. They're not adding anything to that, but by making the enemies, the AI, feel like it is actually intelligent, it has that adaptability built into it because they can switch weapons. It's giving you that extra challenge that you couldn't have had before. And that's where you can take away some things about, like, the open world design not being particularly innovative, but that, you know, the way they use, like, the guiding wind and stuff like that, it made it feel very fresh and like a step forward in how to move a player through an open world.
Yeah.
Even if the activities themselves haven't taken that step, there is still that step forward within the design somewhere.
Yeah.
And this feels the same way, where by making the enemies so much more adaptable to what your strengths are and what you can do, they've taken that step forward again without having to go, well, here's 4 new stances that you have to learn to and incorporate, and kind of overwhelming you with too many things for you to try and juggle. Because, you know, you've got the 4 stances, so you use, what is it L1 or L2 to switch, and then the face buttons. So 4 is the right amount.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, like, your different like ghost weapons, and then, like, the bow. You get the short bow, the long bow, the blow dart, and, like, just throwing stuff.
Yep.
Each of the kind of elements tends to have those kind of 4 options, and that fits very well with everything, and giving you more than that would make it a little bit too unwieldy. Like, because how do you get around that? Do you limit the player to 4 until you go into the menu and unequip something and re-equip this and plan that way? Which is maybe a more of a kind of like Witcher style. You're supposed to prepare for battling this kind of monster, and you want to adapt and do these things and do that thing. Or do you just give you access to all of them by having an extra button input or something, and giving you too many things to try and juggle all at once by saying that you have to use them? You know, that becomes very tricky, and I think they're quite smart in that they've gone about that, in that they've not done that. They haven't added any extra stuff that wouldn't really fit in the combat in that way. They've just gave you, well, here's some much more adaptable enemies, so the stuff you do have, you're going to need to use it, because they're going to try and overwhelm you. They're going to switch up weapons on you. They're going to team up and try and trick you and draw you out into getting surrounded and stuff like that. They're trying to do all those things, so you're going to have to use your smoke bombs, sticky bomb people, or try and thin them out more. Because a lot of people, I think me especially, I tended to walk straight into, like, the checkpoints and stuff like that and stand off against them, which is the kind of, like, face-to-face duel where you just kind of stand.
Yes.
And then you go when the time's right. And I use the Clan Sakai armor, which means you can take out 5 doing that at a time, and that made some of the encounters very easy. Assuming you got that first bit right, and that was kind of the risk reward. Because if you get that wrong, you end up with, like, this much health, and really on the back foot, or you're really dominating kind of the encounter. And I played them that way, and I found with this that I really had to think about like checking what enemies were about and going, right, those ones are right pain. I'm gonna kill him before I expose myself and fight the rest. Or, oh, look, a shaman.
Yeah, exactly.
They are
What I
pain
did
in
as
his
well.
ass as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, and I really like that element to the design. You know, that's a very smart way of it. Of course, it's an expansion and not a sequel,
Yes.
so that probably plays a factor in that decision making as well. But this feels like definitely the right way to have done it in this
Agreed.
in this case.
There's a little bit of an issue, I think, around Jin as a character and the way that he's portrayed in the main game versus his kind of his arc through the expansion and all of the kind of regret he has around things and how he's made to feel kind of as he travels around and things like that. And I think there's a little bit of an issue in that hasn't kind of been addressed, that he's very much still all about honor, even though he has eschewed kind of that life and stuff in the main sort of campaign and things. So there's a little bit of an issue around about the writing, I think, with this. But I haven't quite finished it yet. I've still got, I think, at least one mission to go. So I don't know whether that kind of concludes itself in a reasonable sort of way. I know you've finished it, haven't you, Adam? At least the story.
No, I've done everything that's available on it. This is if you just mainline the quests, it's not really that long in that way. You know, it's only an expansion. It's it's your 5 to 6, 7 hours kind of story
Maybe.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I was about and I was probably about 15 hours in total, just milling about and finishing everything.
Yeah.
Like in addition to all that, because I did all the side quests, and it's a beautiful game. So I enjoyed wandering around it, collecting all of the crap that there is to collect, even if I didn't need it. Well, we'll get back to that a wee bit more, but you're right, there is a wee bit of a disconnect that I think there would be a good way of writing around it that they don't quite capture in what you experience in the game, as you're saying. There's that kind of juxtaposition between the main game stories about how he goes from the samurai that gets defeated in Komoda Beach to becoming the Ghost of Tsushima and defeating the Mongols, and how that journey plays out and how that influences his relationship with various characters, and particularly his uncle, who is essentially kind of his adopted father after his father died. And his father dies on Iki Island, and so a lot of the expansion deals with the consequences of that, the fact that as far as the islanders are concerned, a samurai showing up to help them defeat the Mongols is worse than just the Mongols being there. Like, that's kind of their approach, because Jin's father's campaign on Iki Island is not looked upon so favourably, funnily enough, by the people who lived through it, and so they're not keen on samurai at all. And I think there is an opportunity for them to have addressed it a little better, and that they could have made more of Jin kind of taking back up the mantle of being a samurai on that island specifically, because these people keep saying, "Oh, you're a samurai? Well, fuck you, get lost. We don't want your help." It's sort of, oh, thank you for killing that samurai. Get fucked, you cunt. Sort of, that's how some of the interactions kind of go, and you sort of think, I think they could have made a little bit more of that stepping stone of, not that he's abandoning being the ghost anymore. He's still using all those tactics. He's still taking all of those lessons with him into this. And one of the reasons why I think playing the game to the end is better, because you get all of that, and he has this, at the end of that, obviously he faces up to the fact that he's abandoning the way his adopted father's uncle's kind of way of viewing the world, of being a samurai, and he's branching off from that, and there's consequence to that, and there's a in that story, and then in Iki Island, he's kind of facing up to the consequences of the legacy of his father, and his view of what a samurai is and what they should do. And he's now coming back, what is it, like 15 years later or something? I can't remember the exact.
Yeah, it's about 15 or 20 years after his father has died on the island,
Yeah, and so he's dealing with the consequence, the very real and literal consequences for the islanders of that campaign, and his own emotional stakes and people bad-mouthing his father, and the fact that he was there for it, and how it ends with his father's death and all those things, and how all that comes about, and that plays into the how the Mongols are trying to manipulate him, or through the Eagle tribe, and him trying to deal with that, and they don't step into that quite it's not a very seamless transition, but I think partly that's because it's supposed to be in Act 2 and not at the end.
And I think that's part of the issue. A lot of it coming out a year later, so many people will have finished this that go back to doing that. I imagine the uptake of people who have already played the game and then want to play the DLC is much more than people coming to the game new and playing it all the way through and then experiencing it through Act 2. So I think it is a bit of a misstep that this is an Act 2 thing rather than it being a end of game kind of experience. You've done all of this, now you can go and do this kind of thing. And that could have been written in a very different way. It is absolutely written when Jin is still a little bit unsure of where he stands in his kind of moral, and that kind of line between samurai and essentially like ninja. So
the ghost.
Yes, the ghost. Yes. So yeah, there's definitely some problems around kind of the writing, but then there's also some excellent writing as well, in that it absolutely brings up issues around the conflict that happened on the island X amount of years ago, and how people have lived since then, and how they've been affected by that original incursion by Jin's father and the samurai coming to the island to essentially bring law and order to an island which was full of raiders who were kind of harrying the shores of Tsushima. It's
Tsushima and the wider Japan. I think is the suggestion they make.
There's definitely some big moral questions kind of around that, and it does absolutely edge into it, but it still again is another thing that it kind of skirts around and doesn't quite jump into. And again, I haven't finished the whole thing, so I don't know how deep it gets into resolutions to those kinds of things, and it being, you're not going to get that from Jin because it's an Act 2 kind of part, or at least I feel that that's the way it's going, versus the people that live on the island who have already resolved themselves and have closure on this because it's done, it's happened.
I think in terms of I think the problems with the writing are more that contextual layer. I think what they actually do within the missions and how things play out, like within the expansion itself, is written very well, and it does come to quite a satisfying end without not going to say anything about what that is, so I don't spoil it for you, Ben. But I think it does come together very well, and I think the problems with the writing are that kind of that initial, we're not quite. This isn't quite the Jin that I remember finishing the game with, sort of. And I think they could have done a little bit more to, contextualize that properly and just step that in his kind of initial encounters on the island to make it much more of a. Like it almost feels like they didn't do quite enough of making it seem like the islanders pushed Jin back into the box by labeling him, "You're a samurai, we don't like you," and he's like, "But I'm not quite," and they're like, "No, we're not having any of your crap." Like, "You're a samurai, get lost," sort of thing, and they don't I don't think they do quite enough of pushing him into that box properly, but what they do with the story, regardless of that, is still very, very good. And it's a very interesting story, and I recommend, doing all of the extra side stuff and things, because a lot of that stuff is very interesting as well. And some of that ties into the kind of main plot. But yeah, I think it does come together quite well. I'm glad I played it because it is a very good addition.
Yes.
Like in terms of the narrative and all, and it's just a good experience playing it. But yeah, there is that kind of that issue of the contextualization initially and stepping into Jin on Iki Island as a role because of, as you said, it's a year plus on since that came out. Yeah, it has a wee bit of time.
Absolutely, yeah. A big chunk of time. Good. So let's finish there for this week. We've covered a lot of games. We've had a reasonable amount of varied drinks as well. Just to finish out the episode, Adam, out of the from the whiskey that you had, or the Irn-Bru 901, do you have a preference to very different drinks to throw kind of that question up for? Or even if you don't have a preference, would you, are either of them something you're going to return to?
Well, I'll definitely return to both of them. The Irn-Bru, the old and unimproved Irn-Bru, is a firm favourite regardless. And, it £2 a bottle is much more accessible than my very nice whiskey. It was not an expensive whiskey, like ridiculously so, but of course, naturally, being alcoholic, it is not as cheap as a soft drink. But both are very nice. I think I'll give it to the whiskey just on the fact that it is a novel experience. The Aberfeldy 12 years. That I realise as I'm doing that now that it's backwards on the camera. But it's very, very nice. It was very enjoyable. Very much a more novel experience. As I said, I don't usually drink things neat, and I think I definitely had a little bit of pushback on the alcohol burn as opposed to the taste or the flavour. I felt it was a very nice thing to drink, and then I go, the burn. But it was very nice to sip on.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Very much enjoyed it. And I do recommend it just on that alone. So if you haven't tried a whiskey before, that is certainly one to try because it's not too outlandish or crazy.
Nice.
Good. Okay. I think for me, it's a very easy pick, actually, that it's going to be the Pilsner. Just clean, crisp, lovely flavours, very well made, easy beer that could be picked up, for an afternoon session, for an evening session, for the start of a session before you move on to other things as well. Just really, really well made. I think the Quantock Brewery DIPA is a nice beer, and has those nice sort of sweet notes, and then models into those more earthy vegetable kind of tones. But very much feels like, pretty standard kind of DIPA at the moment that lots of people are trying, and it doesn't do anything sort of different or new or anything. But I appreciate that maybe Quantock Brewery is a brewery that does a little bit more traditional beer, and this is something that they are pushing into as well, into more kind of modern takes on various styles and things. But yeah, I'm gonna hit the Pilsner from Verdant and Utopian this week, which from their flavour text you can only get down in Devon and Cornwall, so fuck everyone else, I guess, who can't ever have this beer unless you, I suppose, buy it directly from either of those breweries, I guess, perhaps, or your random local Devon farm shop.
Yes, because we all have those outside of Devon.
Exactly.
This is why you'll never be a separate country.
Yeah. The Principality of Cornwall thinks differently. Lucy, you haven't had any drinks this week. Do you have any final kind of comments or thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone before we leave?
Yeah, I can't believe we talked about Flight Simulator when Adam actually played real life
yes.
Flight Simulator.
Oh yeah, that's true. So Ben, you delayed the podcast on Tuesday because you were tired.
Yep.
And then I delayed the podcast yesterday because I went and had a flight because my friend Dale is training to become a pilot. He has his private pilot's license and stuff, and he was able to take me up. And we went for a wee jaunt around, a quote unquote local flight past two mountains and around a good chunk of the country. Qualifies as local in flight terms, but not not local by normal standards. But it was very enjoyable, and I had some very nice pictures, which you'll see on my Instagram.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very nice. It was very enjoyable. I look forward to do it again.
Amazing. That is
Scotland's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
I need to
It is.
go back and visit Scotland.
We'll do a beer tour at some point.
Yeah.
Or
That'd suit me.
a distillery tour,
Yes.
starting in a particular
Ooh.
an Aberfeldy, perhaps.
I mean, that sounds like a good weekend, right? We'll come up. We'll hook up with Andy up at Vault City, and we'll do a little bit of a beer tour for one night, and then the next night we'll just do a little bit of a distillery tour and do the whiskey bars.
We'll play a round of golf.
And then the third night
ruins.
you'll not remember anything because you'll have had a time of it. Yeah.
We'll go to Trump's golf course, and everything will be exploded and on fire so much that it will be golf club Wasteland. And we just play it in real life. Good.
I wonder if the guy having an orange jumpsuit is Trump's hair. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I'd be remiss to say, if I didn't say, in Golf Club Wasteland, every time you just miss a hole and it's just inches away, your character just goes, "Oh!"
Nice.
And just sighs. His body language is just like.
That's
Is
good.
that why you had to restart because you didn't want to hurt him? Hurting his soul every time you miss a shot.
It just perfectly encapsulates your mood. Just like that.
Good.
The game should have just been here you go, just put it in. But yeah, very good. Yes.
Amazing. A nice place to finish then this evening. Thank you everybody for joining us. You can get us at Tanked Up Cast on Twitter and everywhere. Come and join us in the Out of Lives Discord as well. Let's come and chat to all three of us and Adel as well.
And everyone else in the Discord.
And
It's
of
not just
course,
us.
yes, exactly, and everyone else. And Callum, who was in there, who featured on the episode last week, and others, and Lauren and other people, and other guests that we've had on the episodes as well, who hang out in the Discord. Come and chat to us about beer and games, or hit us up on Twitter, as I say, Tanks Upcast over there. You can go to outoflives.net to see everything that we do, all of the things that we review, kind of the videos that we do and everything. You can go to the YouTube page as well to see our lovely faces, or if you feel like it, rate, review, do those things on the podcast service, whatever it is, or wherever you're watching this, to help us out, expand our reach, get more people into the conversation about beer and games. I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is
At Juicy Loose 9.
and Adam is
At Snack, that's APT Snack.
perfect. Next week we do have some special guests coming on who are making a game. We have got some people from Orc Digital joining us for a couple of beers and to talk about a game that they are putting out, which is all about beer. So it's a very beery heavy episode, sort of, but definitely
It's what
very
we do
much
here. It's beer and video games.
The Venn diagram
Yes,
of those three
yeah,
things,
exactly.
and Tanked Up is right in the middle.
Exactly, we're
Perfect.
right in the middle of that. So join us over on Twitch on Tuesday night to hang out, or get us on YouTube or your podcast service of choice, where you can listen to every single episode, almost 280 episodes that we have put out. But for this week, thank you for joining us. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh.
www.outoflives.net